Hey, it's Alex Radcliffe from BoardGameCo, and today I'm taking a look at my 2021 most anticipated non-Kickstarter games, probably. And the probably is going to be because I did this video once before, although it was for 2020. It was a year ago or so. I think it was, I don't remember exactly when, who knows. But I remember I did a video covering my most anticipated 2020 games that were not Kickstarter, and some of them were definitely Kickstarter, because apparently I didn't do enough research on those games. And I don't mean that sarcastically, I mean genuinely, I simply did not do enough research on those games. Now this time around, I will say that what you can do on BoardGameGeek is when you click open to a game, you can take a look over here and you can see what family it's part of. Is it part of the crowdfunding Kickstarter or crowdfunding game found? That's a thing now. But the general crowdfunding category. And for the games that I picked today, the 10 games that are my most anticipated 2021 non-Kickstarter games, none of them are in that family, but one or two still may show up on Kickstarter. It just depends, because not everything actually lists it properly. I'm only as accurate as the data I'm currently looking at. And, as an aside, it's worth noting, do you know how hard it is to find Kickstarter, to find 2021 games that aren't Kickstarter? When you search on BoardGameGeek, and you can do this over here, you can find an advanced search. We go over here, open a new tab. We're going to find the advanced search. You pop in over here 2021 to 2021. I'm going to go ahead and exclude expansions because I'm just not interested in expansions. And you hit search. What you're going to get is this page over here. Okay, this is the page you're getting. This is basically an advertisement for Kickstarter. We have Oath, Frosthaven, Ankh, Sleeping Gods, Oathsworn, Kemet Blood and Sand, Return to Dark Tower, Trudvang Legends, AS Odyssey, Isis Vanguard, Europa Universalis, Endless Winter, Perseverance, Dead Reckoning, Hell the Last Saga. Do you recognize anything here that's not a Kickstarter? Darkest Dungeon, Darwin's Journey, Wonderland's War, Great Wall, Mercado de Lisboa, Merchant of the Dark Road, just keep scrolling. Clash of Cultures Monumental Edition. That is the first one on this list that's not a Kickstarter. How far down do you have to go to find one? Carnegie, Frostpunk, Hyperspace, Sword and Sorcery, Canvas, Merchant's Cove, So You've Been Eaten, Dominant Species. No, wait, Dominant Species. That's another non-Kickstarter. You have to go down pretty darn far to even find 10 games that are not Kickstarter games that people are excited about. So apparently, it looks like board games have migrated to Kickstarter. The retail stuff is over. We'll see you in a few years, or anything along those lines. And that's basically it. By the way, you can keep scrolling. Archaea, Saves the Realm, Golem. Well, Golem actually may or may not be on my list. Unsettled, Trickshot, Northgard, Stronghold. Stronghold, I think, is retail. Museum Picture, Adventure Tactics. These are all Kickstarter games. Look at this. Weather Machine. Weather Machine is actually, I don't know if it will be a Kickstarter. This is one that's going to be a Vital Lacerda game. That it does not have the tag, but because it's a Vital Lacerda game, if it's going to be coming from Eagle Griffins, although we don't know, publishers unpublished, but this may be a Kickstarter game. We'll see. Vampire the Masquerade, Luciferian Guard, Uprising, Burgle Bros. Oh, I think that one's probably not Kickstarter. The Thing, Final Girl. If you look again and again, most of these games, and I'm on to page 2 as well. We go to page 2. Page 2, just more of the same. More Kickstarter games. Everything here is Kickstarter. So that's basically it. And maybe, by the way, maybe if this video does well or whatnot, maybe I'll do my top 10 most anticipated Kickstarter games in 2021 secondly. Maybe, how about this? 750 thumbs. So this video gets 750 thumbs. I'll do my top 2021 Kickstarter games that I'm excited about getting. And with that, let's start with my number one. 3 minutes into the video, my number one is going to be Coffee Traders. And this is ranked in least to most excited for, and a lot of that's going to be based on what I actually know about the game. So this is going to be a game published by Capstone Games, already a 7.8 based on who's played it or whatnot. I believe they have a TTS implementation, and this is basically going to be a coffee-themed game with area majority, contracts, action points, all the mechanics on the sidebar over here, and ultimately it just looks cool. The reason this is my number one as opposed to my number 10 is because it's the one I know the least about in terms of the actual gameplay or how it plays out. But look at that image. That image just looks beautiful. Look at all the stuff over there. We have over here, we have more stuff over here, more beans, more coffee tradings, got forms of area control going on in the game. Combine that with a beautiful production. It's Capstone Games. Capstone Games does have beautiful production. And the reason it's on my list is because I like coffee. I just do. It is what it is. I like coffee quite a bit. And the problem with coffee is there are not a lot of good coffee-themed games out there. There's Viva Java, which was okay, and it rated best at higher player counts like 6, 7, and 8, which I never see anymore. We have Viva Java the dice game, which I don't think got rated that well. We have Coffee, what's the Coffee, Coffee Roaster, which is a great solo game. I eventually got rid of it because it felt a little samey over time. But the actual amount of coffee-themed games out there is not a high number. So I'm happy to take a look at Coffee Traders, add it to my collection, and see if it's for me. But, I mean, it looks pretty. That's really all I need for right now, and that's going to be my number one. Which brings us to my number two, which is going to be Tabannusi Builders of Ur. And this is going to be published by Board and Dice, and this is by, yes, it is by Daniel Tasini, and it does seem like this is still being published. If you don't know, there's a lot of drama around Daniel Tasini. I don't want to get into it because I will sidetrack the conversation, but from what I can see, this particular game is still going to be published. So we'll see how that plays out, whether it is or isn't. And this is one where there are two different statements made. On the one hand, it does not have that, Kickstarter tag over here, and they've also said there will be a retail release. On the other hand, there were statements that there may have been a Kickstarter release, so we'll see how it actually plays out. This one may show up on Kickstarter, just letting you know in advance. And the T series of games, Tzolk'in, Tabannusi, Teotihuacan, and all the others, I'm leaving out one as well, I'm leaving out at least one, and now Tabannusi over here, they're all interesting games. That the ones I've only played Tzolk'in so far, which I thought was good. I didn't love it as the way the rest of the world loves it, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was a solid game. And the other ones I'm not as excited about compared to Tabannusi. And the reason I'm excited about Tabannusi is because they talk about the different districts of the board that will have different colors, and you'll activate dice, and the dice will become a resource of its color, and the value of the die determines where your worker activates. And all of that sounds very reminiscent of a game called Coimbra to me. Coimbra is one of my favorite Euros, and it has a big focus on both the number of the die and the color of the die, utilizing those together. And that's going to be Coimbra over here, which is one of my favorite Euro games. Which, by the way, now that I think about it, give me 1 second over here. I've actually been meaning to this for a while, but Thinker Themer, which is another Thinker Themer. I typed it wrong. Here we go. Thinker Themer. Thinker Themer is a YouTube channel that you should definitely subscribe to. I'll include a link down below. I thought of them because their favorite game, or one of their favorite games, is also Coimbra. They have solid taste. But basically, you should watch them. This is Maggie, and I should know the name. Oh my gosh, it's Maggie and someone else who I'm blanking on the name. But anyways, yeah, they have the channel that you should check out. Very high quality stuff overall. They're new to the theme, and the reason it's called Thinker Themer is because one of them is very into the thinkiness of the game, the strategy, the logic, all that, and the other one's very into the theme of the game. And so check out their channel. I'll throw a link down below, but go ahead and check them out. But that's completely unrelated. Just got sidetracked because of Coimbra. But anyways, Tabannusi, Builders of Ur, reminds me to a degree of Coimbra because of that numeric color and, dice, numeric and color based, similar to Coimbra. And that's going to be my number 3, which is going to be Dominant Species Marine. Now, Dominant Species Marine is a re-implementation of Dominant Species. It's going to have a lot of the same mechanics of Dominant Species, same basic structure, different art, different whatever, some things that are different. And there's a nice little subsection over here telling you what's different about the game. It seems like it will be a little bit less conflict-driven, a little bit less thinkiness in the sense that you'll take your actions right away rather than building up towards a large turn. So instead of having to plan out what you're going to do in like a whole bunch of turns now, you simply take your actions as you go, which does lead to less control, or I don't know if it's less or more control, but it's certainly less thinkiness because you don't have to sit there and think through how you're going to get towards that perfect action once everything falls together. And they have a whole bunch of other ways in which it's different from Dominant Species, but ultimately, Dominant Species is a game that I really, really need to get to the table. I have it on my shelf, and I just haven't played it, which is why Dominant Species Marine is my number 3, because it can't be higher than that when I haven't played Dominant Species. I don't know which one will be better, but it is, Dominant Species was out in 2012? Back in 2010. 2010, it's been 11 years. And this game is in the top 100 on BoardGameGeek, so the idea of a sequel certainly has me intrigued, if not completely excited, because I really just need to play Dominant Species. And that's going to be my number 3. My number 4 is going to be Twilight Struggle Red Sea Conflict in the Horn of Africa. Speaking of re-implementations of really old games, this is not going to be a full re-implementation. This is going to be effectively a 2-player shorter, well, I say 2-player, Twilight Struggle is 2-player. This is going to be a 2-player shorter version of Twilight Struggle, distilling the core mechanics of Twilight Struggle into a 35 to 75 minute experience on a much smaller board. You're going to have this board over here, which represents just a small subsection. So it's going to give you the same general idea of Twilight Struggle. In fact, I believe the cards from Twilight Struggle and from this game over here are interchangeable, so you can utilize both to whatever degree. But it's going to distill that experience, which for me, the reason I'm interested in that is because I love Watergate. Watergate to me is an absolutely amazing game because for me, the way I always describe Watergate is a game that gave me the Twilight Struggle experience. Very different, but it gave it to me in half an hour. And while I always liked Twilight Struggle, I never thought Twilight Struggle was worthy of being a 2.5, 3 hour long game, at least for myself. It's very high rated. I'm just using my own opinion here. We don't need the mobs to tell me how I'm wrong. But I always appreciated Twilight Struggle. It was one of the first games I really had. I had a picture of my daughter when she's like 6 months old or something like that over the board, but either way, it's been in my collection. It was in my collection for a long time before I eventually got rid of it, and I got rid of it because of that game time around what was a great game, but not great in equivalence to how long it was. So I'm very interested in a shorter version of that game. Which means us to number 5, which is going to be X-Men Mutant Insurrection. X-Men Mutant Insurrection is going to be by Fantasy Flight Games, and this is one that they announced at the whatever the last convention they actually had was before conventions got shut down in today's day and age. And so X-Men Mutant Insurrection is going to be a cooperative dice drafting card playing game. It has both cards and dice in the game. We can see some of that stuff over here. We can see, well, there's the box, but we can see here's the general area structure of the board. You can see the dice, you can see cards. We have some more. Nope, that's the next game. Spoiler. Whoopsie daisy. Basically, but over here you can see some of the cards and how they'll be utilized together. And so the reason I'm excited about this is because I like superheroes. And Fantasy Flight did give me Marvel Champions, and for that I am forever grateful. Plus some other games in my collection as well that are Fantasy Flight games that I don't remember offhand, but I'm sure they exist. Chaos in the Old World. It's an incredible game, still on my shelf, although that's out of print. So either way, Marvel Champions, though, is one that I love. I do not think this is going to be Marvel Champions, but I'm certainly going to try it out because combine superheroes with dice and cards and abilities and things, and it may or may not be an amazing, incredible game, and I don't like standees. I really don't like standees. I'm fine with cards with no miniatures whatsoever, and I'm fine with miniatures. I don't like standees. I like the deluxeification of stuff, and so either way, I am intrigued by the game. I am interested in however the game actually plays out. If you and the other betrayal bonded hero are at the same mission, while you are the active hero, you cannot re-roll dice, showing boom results. That's the official term, the boom results. But yeah, color me excited for X-Men Mutant Insurrection while also being skeptical. I am skeptical that this will be amazing. I am skeptical that this will have a lasting impact on my collection the same way I was skeptical that Marvel Champions was a game worth trying. And yet I keep buying all the Marvel Champions expansion packs because I like that game quite a bit. And moving on to my number, I think we're at 5. Maybe it's 6. That must have been 5. It's 6. I think my number 6, I can't keep track, is Cubitos. Cubitos by AEG and John D. Clear. And this is one which so there's a few things about Cubitos. First of all, it's illustrated by Ryan Illier. And if you don't know who that is the person behind the game Quad Heroes, which means effectively he's worked on 2 games. And those, I mean, maybe perhaps more, I don't know. But he's worked on 2 games, both around cubes. I mean, this is Quad Heroes, which, by the way, fun fact, there will be a second edition of Quad Heroes coming to Kickstarter soon. But we are not talking about Quad Heroes today. We are talking about Cubitos. And Cubitos is going to be a push-your-luck bag-building racing game with cubes or whatnot. You're going to have these cubes over here that are going to be racing towards the finish line as you push your luck and try to see how far you can get with that bag-building aspect. So I don't know how the game actually plays out. I've been hearing positive things so far. I'm intrigued to what the gameplay is actually like. It looks interesting. I was going to say whimsical, but I've been using that word far too often. It looks appealing. Let's say appealing. Appealing is a less frequently used word by me. We have these giant boxes full of different cubes that will somehow be an element in your bag building or whatnot. We have all these cards and abilities. Gain 2 money, gain 1 red die, gain 2 footprints. If active brown dice, gain 2 more footprints. If active yellow dice, gain 2 more footprints. I mean, cards and abilities and dice drafting and push your luck. I should go out and get a copy of Cubitos is what I'm hearing. And that's going to be my number, I want to say 6. My number 7, maybe. My number 7 is Hadrian's Wall. And this is going to be by Garphill Games. And if you think this looks like Raiders of Scythia, you are not wrong. This does indeed look like Raiders of Scythia because it has the same artist, which is going to be Sam Phillips. Sam Phillips is the artist of both these games. But what is Hadrian's Wall? It is a roll and write or something write-a-majiggy. I don't know if it's roll, but it's something to do with one of those roll and write genre of whatnot. And if you're looking at this gives you a headache, well, it should. Which could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. I am intrigued to see whether it delivers a comprehensive media experience. I mean, I think the most reminiscent thing I see when I look at this is Rome and Roll by David Turczi. Is it by David Turczi? I think it's by David Turczi. But Rome and Roll is a game that I actually just got it. I need to give it a shot. But I've heard mixed things about it because I've heard on Roll and Roll that on the one hand it's a good game, on the other hand it made roll and write into a gimmick because it should have just been a regular game and they tried to incorporate a heavy game around a light mechanic which may not have been the perfect fit. And Hadrian's Wall may well be doing the same thing. Or it may be immensely rewarding. I find looking at all these different things is certainly overwhelming, but then again, I was overwhelmed the first time I looked at Ganz Clever. I was overwhelmed the first time I looked at Fleet Dice, and both of those are amongst my favorite roll and writes in the genre. And so if Hadrian's Wall can deliver anything along those lines, I'll be intrigued. And I am, by the way, intrigued. That's why I'm talking about this game for my most excited 2021 non-Kickstarter games. And that's another thing, by the way. This is by Garphill Games. Garphill Games have historically gone to Kickstarter. This one does not have the tag. So I'm just calling that a pass. It is what it is. Even if it does go to Kickstarter, I've covered my bases. Which brings me to my number 8, which is going to be Golem. Golem is one that I actually talked about in my video last year when I was talking about games I was excited for 2020. Because apparently Golem didn't come out in 2020. And the reason I was excited about it then, and the reason I'm excited about it now, is for the same basic reason, which is Golem is designed by Flamina Brassini, Virgino Gigli, and Simone Luciani. And that's going to be a trio of designers who are quality designers. We're not talking about some off-brand whatever. And why do I say off-brand whatever? Because this is a game that has a historically Jewish theme, which as a Jewish Orthodox person, I'm very pulled in by. I mean, this game, if you look at the box art, let's see if we can find the box art over here. That word over here is emes. Emes is the Hebrew word for truth. And golems are the concept of these clay giants that rabbis built to defend the ghettos or whatnot, and to use them for both defense, for work, for whatnot, by bringing these golems to life. And you're going to be doing that in the game. And the reason I'm intrigued by that is not because of the theme in and of itself. The theme in and of itself is only passably interesting, but you're combining a very traditional Jewish theme, which, again, there's not a lot of that in board games, with a trio of designers that are top-notch. And I'm excited for this game. I'm excited for how this actually plays or what it's going to be like. And no, I'm not pulled in by this artwork at all or whatever it is, but this is Tabletop Simulator, and I'm hoping it's prototype stage. I don't know. The box art I like. But the game involves you building up golems, and you taking different actions throughout the game to build further golems, to maintain your golems. Because if you don't maintain your golems, they will sadly go on little rampages and destroy stuff, because clay giants are not often wont to do exactly what you want them to do. So that's basically it. I'm excited about Golem because of the Jewish theme around a game with a trio of designers that are quality and all that, and I'm intrigued. I want to see. And Cranial Creations. Cranial Creations is a solid company as well. So all in all, I'm intrigued by Golem, and hopefully it will not be on my list next year when I talk about my 2022 games. Which brings me to my number 9. I think. I'm still not sure what number I'm up to. Number 9 is going to be Imperium Classics and Imperium Legends. 2 games being produced at the same time by Osprey Games. And speaking of David Tursi is involved in this one as well. With art by the Miko. I mean, look at this art. Look at this art over here. This is the Miko. I can't pronounce his name. Mihailo Dmitrievsky, or something similar along those lines. Hopefully I didn't butcher it horribly. And it's going to be Imperium Classics and Imperium Legends, 2 standalone and combinable games that introduce different races to this asymmetric races to this game, and it's going to be basically a deck builder. And so that's all I know about the game so far, but that's all I really need to know, because combine art that I love, Osprey Games, David Tursi, and a deck builder. I mean, I like deck builders to begin with, and so you combine a bunch of stuff around that make it seem more promising that it'll be a solid game. And I'm intrigued and pulled in by Imperium Classics and Imperium Legends. Which brings me to my number 10, and I have been keeping track. My number 10 is going to be Clash of Cultures Monumental Edition. And this is one that I am hoping I will not be let down by. This is Clash of Cultures reimagined. Clash of Cultures 10 years later. I think it's 10 years later. What do we have? I can't find the original. The original Clash of Cultures came out in 2012. So 9 years later, we're looking at Clash of Cultures Monumental Edition. And Clash of Cultures was always one of the best Civilization games that I had the opportunity to play. One of the best 4X games that I had the opportunity to play. And sadly, it was a little bit too fiddly in certain aspects. It also went out of print, and the expansion and base game are both hard to find. The expansion even more so. And then combine that with a tech tree that was good, but not as well balanced as I would ideally like. And so, overall, Clash of Cultures gave me a very, very solid game. A solid 8 or 9, but not a 10. It was a little shy of a 10, and it's a game I eventually got rid of, combining the length, the fiddliness, and the tech tree being a little bit more scripted than I would like. And I frequently debated getting it back, but I haven't for the past 3 years now, because I kept hearing about the Clash of Cultures reprint coming. And this is going to be the Monumental Edition, which includes the Civilizations expansion, by the way. So it's going to be both the base game and the Civilizations expansion, not that different than what Kemet Blood and Sand did to Kemet and the Kemet expansions. Combining all those, I don't know what tweaks they've done to the game. I don't know what they've actually changed or not changed. Overall, the game looks pretty much the same, which it should be. It's basically the same game. But hopefully they streamlined some of the different aspects of the game out. Hopefully they streamlined some of the fiddliness out. And hopefully they more balance those tech trees out so they are all equally viable instead of having some pre-scripted paths. And that is going to be my 10 most anticipated 2021 non-Kickstarter, supposedly, we'll see how it plays out, games that I am looking forward to. As I said in the beginning, if this video gets at least 750 thumbs, I'll put out a top 10 most looking forward to Kickstarter games, which will be different than my top 10 Kickstarter campaigns, because it is a different list. I already know, because having scrolled through those initial pages of tons and tons of Kickstarter games, I can tell you it's definitely going to be a different list. But until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from BoardGameCo. Let me know in the comments down below, what did I miss that you're excited about? There were a bunch that could have made this list. I didn't literally just find the only 10 that I could get my hands on. There were a bunch of others that I did cut from this list, games that I just wasn't excited enough about, because I didn't know enough to be as excited. But these 10 are all games that I'm not saying I will pick them up, because some of them I need to find out more information about, but most of them I think I'm inclined to. I am definitely intrigued in these games and want to get them to the table. And that's basically it. Until next time, like I said already, I'm Alex Radcliffe from BoardGameCo, and I hope you have a good one.